Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into one of Canada's most fascinating, enduring enigmas. We're talking about a literal clash between an unsolved maritime mystery and the rigid world of scientific skepticism. It's a story that absolutely forces us to ask what actually happens when the unexplainable collides head-on with the establishment. Let's get right into it.
So picture this. We're in the tiny fishing village of Shag, Harbour, Nova Scotia. It's the night of October 4th, 1967. Out of nowhere, dozens of witnesses, we're talking RCMP officers, seasoned local fishermen, even commercial airline pilots, they all report seeing this massive, bright orange object just streaking across the night sky. And then, with a massive flash and a literal hiss, it plunges straight into the freezing ocean. The question that has kept people up at night for nearly 6 decades is simply this: what on Earth, or maybe off-Earth, crashed into those waters?
Section 1. The Shag Harbour Crash. To really wrap our heads around the sheer magnitude of this thing, we need to trace exactly how the night played out. Because, a simple sighting escalated into a full-scale military operation in the blink of an eye. Right after the crash on October 4th, local rescue teams rushed out into the dark. They fully expected to find a downed airplane and hopefully survivors. But they found zero wreckage. Absolutely nothing. Well, actually, scratch that, they did find something. Just this eerie, glowing yellow foam that smelled strongly of sulfur, just drifting on the surface of the water. Pretty creepy, right? Within days, Canadian Navy divers were brought in for a grueling 3-day underwater search. The official Maritime Command report? Not a trace, not a clue, not a bit of anything. But, as you might guess, the story definitely doesn't end there. Early in 1968, things got even weirder.
Decades later, these totally wild, albeit unconfirmed accounts started surfacing. Supposedly, during a NATO minesweeping exercise in 1968, divers stumbled upon 2 massive, metallic, disc-shaped craft just resting right there on the seabed near Shag Harbour. According to an anonymous diver, one of the craft, which was about the size of a small submarine, looked heavily damaged, and right next to it, an intact craft was sort of hovering, emitting this intense blue-white light, looking like it was actually trying to assist the damaged one. The diver claimed these things had 0 markings, made absolutely no sound, and eventually just glided right along the ocean floor before vanishing into deeper waters. He basically described it as technology completely unsuited for this Earth. I mean, wow.
Section 2. The scientist's response. Now, while the public was understandably completely captivated by these sci-fi level reports of underwater UFOs, we have to pause and look at how the orthodox scientific community was trying to handle this wave of public panic. Enter Father Michael W. Burke Gaffney. He was a Jesuit priest, a trained engineer, and a highly respected astronomer at St. Mary's University over in Halifax. He was deeply guided by this Atlantic Canadian ideal of service, basically a strong belief that his scientific work needed to directly educate and benefit the public. So whenever the press needed a grounded scientific expert to explain these crazy sky anomalies, he was absolutely their guy.
Throughout the 1950s, Father Burke Gaffney really built up his reputation as a trusted, neutral voice in the media. Unlike a lot of his government colleagues who just wanted to sweep UFO sightings under the rug or ruthlessly debunk them, he actually engaged with people. He would meticulously follow up with witnesses and treat their reports with genuine respect. At the same time, though, he was very quick to explain away flying saucers as completely natural, everyday phenomena, things like bolides, military flares, or just ordinary meteors.
So the really crucial point here is that Burke Gaffney wasn't saying these anomalous objects didn't exist. He absolutely acknowledged people were seeing things. He just strongly pushed back against the massive leaps in logic everyone was taking. He even went so far as to coin his own term, UFO, that stands for unexplained phenomena or flying objects. He figured that the second you say flying saucer or UFO, people automatically jump to alien spacecraft. His whole stance was pretty straightforward. Just because a phenomenon is unexplained today doesn't mean it's unexplainable forever, and it for sure doesn't mean it's from another planet. He was a huge advocate for scientific patience.
But as you can imagine, this created a massive ideological clash. On one side of the ring, you have the extraterrestrial hypothesis, or ETH. This was the idea the public was absolutely eating up, totally convinced these were alien visitors. And on the other side, Burke Gaffney's scientific UFO framework. He was practically begging people to wait for physical, earthly explanations. He firmly believed that just slapping the label of alien craft on something we didn't understand was a major regression in human logic. And this fundamental disagreement? It was a pressure cooker, just waiting to boil over.
Section 3. A shift in public trust.
Heading into the 1960s, that delicate balance of trust between regular folks and scientific authorities really began to crack. The 60s brought this massive societal shift, right? People were way less inclined to just blindly defer to the powers that be. They stopped accepting the standard, neat and tidy scientific debunking. Instead, we see this huge rise in civilian UFO research groups, basically organizations run by everyday people who were fed up with the military having a monopoly on UFO data. The rift between the skeptical establishment and a super impatient public was growing wider and, quite frankly, a lot louder.
This cultural shift is captured so perfectly in this incredibly blunt letter from 1965. It was written by Wainwright, a high school student who is actually the Canadian director of a UFO research society, and he sent it straight to Burt Gaffney. He wrote, "I think that you could be of greater service to your profession if you devoted your time to the UFO research instead of inconsequential meteorites." Ouch. I mean, talk about a real-time breakdown of trust. The public was openly accusing top astronomers of essentially ignoring the truth and totally failing in their scientific duties.
Now, Burt Gaffney was definitely not the type to just take that lying down. His response was razor sharp and really captures the deep frustration felt by the scientific community at the time. He wrote back, "To invent unknown objects as the cause is a regression towards the Greeks who invented a new god to account for what they could not explain." For him, this whole UFO craze wasn't exciting. It was a dangerous leap backward for human progress. He argued that 99.9% of sightings were totally explainable, and jumping straight to aliens for that tiny leftover fraction was just bad science.
But honestly, his appeals for patience just weren't working anymore. Shortly after the Shag Harbour crash in October '67, Burt Gaffney gave a lecture where he basically said UFO speculation was useless, blaming marsh gas and mirages for most sightings. Well, the public pushed back hard. In December 1967, a man named John O'Brien fired off a letter to the editor, flat out declaring if it was the intention of Father Burt Gaffney to pacify the masses, then he has failed. People were furious. They felt that their very real, terrifying experiences, like literally watching a massive object crash into the ocean, were just being arrogantly brushed off by guys in ivory towers.
Section 4. Canada's underwater Roswell.
Which brings us to the ultimate legacy of the Shag Harbour incident, and exactly why it remains such a powerful cultural touchstone even today. Because here's the thing, the Shag Harbour case stands completely apart from famous incidents like Roswell. Why? Because it was never officially debunked. It's true. Both the Canadian Coast Guard and the RCMP actually logged the object as a genuine UFO in their official documentation, which is an absolute rarity when it comes to government files, because the government could never find a terrestrial explanation, and because the local witnesses maintain this incredibly calm, level-headed, distinctly maritime attitude about the whole thing. The mystery has literally never faded. Fast forward to today, and this event is proudly memorialized. I mean, they've got a dedicated Shag Harbour Incident Interpretive Center, where you can actually go see the original witness reports, the old military memos, even sonar images. There's a literal UFO gazebo that overlooks the exact spot in the ocean where it crashed. They even host this massive annual UFO Expo every October that draws researchers from all over the globe. It's become a huge historical and tourism draw, basically keeping that thrilling, delicate tension between myth, memory, and cold hard science alive and well. So this brings us to one final question for you to chew on. When you look out over those quiet, dark waters of Shag Harbour today, do you ever wonder if some mysteries are just better left unexplained? Father Burt Gaffney spent his entire life trying to shine the bright light of science into the unknown, practically begging us all for patience. And yet, the waters of Nova Scotia stubbornly refused to yield their secrets. It leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. In our relentless, modern pursuit of scientific truth, maybe the greatest enduring magic lies in the things we still just cannot prove. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and always keep questioning what you see.